Hi there, and welcome to another cleaning tutorial. Today we're going to be focusing on the PlayStation 4, the wireless controller. Now, before we go into this, word of warning. This is moving into newer or current gen consoles. As such, most of these things are most likely going to be under warranty still. So if you open them up and do anything to them that you shouldn't be doing, just be careful that the warranty is most likely going to be voided. Now, that being said, there's a lot of things that you can do to these things by yourself, like cleaning. Just know that once you open it, the warranty is kind of void. And also, this is newer technology, so there's a lot more intricate design work on the inside compared to like the DualShock controller and so on that you would find on like PlayStation 1 and 2 and 3 and so on. So let's take this apart and I'll show you how it's done. You're going to need two tools. One, you're just going to need a Phillips screwdriver, and again I just use this one. You just basically need a small screwdriver. Doesn't need to be a precision tip, and also tweezers are really helpful, as always. But without further ado, you'll see here there are 4 screw holes. So we're going to take those screws out and just put those to the side. There we go. Now, next part is to separate the two halves. Can be a little bit tricky, and this controller is actually the first controller that I ever took apart by myself. So, I didn't know what I was doing, so I actually scarred the bottom lip here, because there's basically going to be a couple of connectors, prongs that hold this together, and you kind of have to, the first time you do it, it's a little tricky, but everything is separated at this point. So you basically just squeeze down here on the side. You can see I'm getting a little opening, and then you just work your way up, and slowly but surely, and you might need to use a little bit of force, but there we go. And then do the other side. And just there we go. And now those are separated. So we'll just flip this over. And you can also see these little legs here are actually holding on a little bit. So we'll just pry it open and just be very careful and gentle, because there are things that can go wrong here. So you can see these legs are kind of pushing against the bottom right here, and that's one of the reasons why it's kind of holding together there. And then just very carefully peel it up. And as you can see here, it has a ribbon cable, it's got battery, it's got a lot of things that are kind of, working against you as you're trying to separate the two halves. But just be careful. You do need to use some force in order to pry this apart. Just know that too much force and you're actually breaking it. That's also why it's very important that you start with one leg and bend that up, and then go to the next leg, and don't just do all in one. Most likely you're going to break it in the middle. So just one side, then the other side, and then gently peel it apart. But now that we have the two halves, we'll take this ribbon cable here and we'll just pull that out, and that will separate the two halves. So first thing, let's focus on this part here. You'll also see that, like here you can see one of the triggers is stuck and the other one fell, or not fell, but continued through. So that might happen, that these might snap, but don't worry if that happens. That's kind of normal. So we'll start with this and just separate that further down. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take this trigger out and just wiggle it a little bit here until we get a proper aligned where it'll come out. And there's also a little, let's see, where did it go? There we go. There's also a little spring in here. Both of the triggers will have a spring. Since this one's still attached, the spring is inside. But since that one came loose, the spring is also loose. So be careful not to drop those. Let's see if we can get this out now. It can be a little tricky sometimes just to get it in the proper alignment where it will fall out. There we go. Yay, finally. But anyways, this is just a plastic piece, so we'll throw that in some water and then continue down here. What you want to do here is this little white bridge. Just push and lift up this way, and that's going to come loose. And now you got that one out, so you can throw that in the water as well. Then you've got this little bridge here that's kind of separated here, so you can get your fingers in between there, and you can see how that just lifts up. And this piece is the light indicator on the front, so we'll throw that in the water as well. Now as for this little flap here, you can just peel that off. That's connected with some sticky tape there. And then the same on that side. And we'll just wash that by hand so that it still has some grip on the stickiness. Then you got the light diode here, and you can see that there are two screws right there, so we're going to take that out. Not light diode, sorry, the USB charger port. So we'll take those two screws out, and then you can see that there's a tiny little tape piece here, so you just lift that up just to break the seal from the back there, just like that. And then you can wiggle this out just like that, and of course put that to the side. And now you got a piece of plastic here that's very grimy, so we'll throw that in the water and then continue down here. So of course you got the battery compartment, which just lifts straight up. So we'll take this little connector here and just gently peel that off, and we got the battery separated. And then this you can actually just lift up as well. So, there we go. And just the same on the other side here. There we go. So you can see here how it has a little connector right there and another connector right there. So you just need to kind of pry a little. Don't break those, of course, but just wiggle it a little back and forth and it should come out. And we'll throw that in the water as well. Now for the main circuit board, you'll see that there's a screw in the middle, so we want to take that out. And then you'll also see at the very top right corner here that there's a little ribbon cable. So we want to flip this little switch here right down, and that's gonna, let's see, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, there maybe. So you can see that that's a little bridge that's kind of locking the whole thing in place. So you flip that open, and then you can just peel that cable right out. So just like that here. Come on. There we go. And now that those are done, we can now lift the whole assembly out. Not the actual like sensor bar here, but you can see how there's a line underneath it. So we will take that whole piece and just separate the two halves. And just take that whole piece out, just like that. And let me put this back in its place so you can see that just fell out as I was doing this. So I'll put that back in place so I can show you later. Now, as for this circuit board here, you can take that out, but you're not going to be able to separate the two since the rumble packs here are held in place in these little holders and then soldered onto the actual motherboard here. So the only way to get this off is to desolder these. So we're not going to do that, but instead we're just going to peel away the thumbsticks just straight up, just like that, and then we're going to throw those in the water. Then we got the buttons here, and just show you here now how the trigger is actually connected. You'll see right here past the grime that there's a little holder, so you just push that out just like that, and it's the same on the other side here. So basically you just pull it straight out just like that, and then you can see that little spring there. So we'll put the spring over here, throw this in the water, and then we can do the same with the R1 and L1, and those are, let's see if we can show you this here. So they're connected right here by a little fastener, so I find it easier just to use like a flat tip screwdriver here and just go in at an angle right in between the trigger and this little bridge here, and then just pull up like so, and that's going to release the triggers, or bumpers rather. So just very easily, just like that. And of course, don't drop the pieces. There you go, found it. So we'll throw that in the water. Now at this point there's really not much more that you want to do with this piece. We're going to go over that with some compressed air and Q-tip, but you know, for detailed cleaning we want to make sure that we get the triggers and the bumpers off, because those are the ones that are the most grimed. So for this we'll just put that to the side for now and then come back to that later. So let's focus on the front of the controller, and we'll take the button covers off, and then of course push out the buttons themselves, and the D-pad, and also the menu select buttons here. Those just pop out like so. And you got another button cover over here, and these buttons. And then as for this piece, which is the touchpad, it's kind of stuck in there, and it's a little, you know, it's not exactly intuitive how to get it out, but it's very easy. All you do is you push from here and up, and then you just take that and you slide it all around. So you do like a full 180 and just twist the whole thing around. And of course now you got this piece here all freed up, so we're going to throw that in the water. And you can actually see here those marks that I made the first time I opened this when I didn't know any better. But here you can see those little pivot points that are connected to the bottom of the controller. So it's these two that you need to kind of, you know, get loose, because there's nothing else connecting it. And then of course you got these legs here that are kind of pushing towards the bottom. So it's these things that are, you know, keeping it from being separated. So we'll throw that in the water there, and then I'll go over this with some compressed air. Now that everything's had time to dry up, we're going to be putting everything back together again. And we'll start with the front piece here. That's the easiest. So first thing we'll do is we'll take the touchpad here, and we're going to slide that in just like that. And just make sure that we get the ribbon cable on the right or correct side. And then just flip that around just like that. Then we can do the buttons, and just like every button in existence, they only go in one way. Just want to make sure that we get all the moistures out just in case. So we will pop these in. So there's a triangle, and just let's see, circle. So that goes over here. And then I got the square, which goes over here. And of course the X, which goes at the bottom here. Then we'll take the button cover and make sure it's completely dry. Yep. And you can see here it's got little like cutouts here that goes on these pins. So we'll just align that, and then just pinch it through so that those pins will connect in those holes right there. So that's easy enough. We can do the PlayStation button and put that in the middle here. Just like that. And then do the button cover on that as well. And you'll see that this has a little lip right there. So that lip is going to go over the side right here. So goes up towards the speaker. And same thing here, it's got little cutouts, little holes there for those pins to go through and hold it in place. And we'll take the D-pad, put that in, and do the same with the button cover here. Let's see, there's a little moisture there, so we'll just wipe that off. Just like that. And then the same thing, just put that over and slide the pins into the cutout holes. There we go. There we go. So that is easy enough. Next thing we'll do is we'll just put that to the side for now and focus on this piece. So we're going to put in the USB here, the mini USB connector. So we're going to start by taking this little circuit board and inserting the USB right through the hole, and then make sure those pins get connected. Push the little tape in place, and then take the 2 screws and screw that in place. And these are going to be the shorter black screws. And as always, when you're screwing in these screws into plastic, you don't want to use excessive force because the screws are tougher than the plastic. So if you do it incorrectly, the screws are going to basically, you know, de-thread the screw holes, and you're going to have a loose screw in there. So, you know, don't use excessive force. Once we have that in place, we're going to take this little cover here, and you can see that it has a beveled edge. So we're going to take that edge and push that through the hole here, just like that. Next, we're going to take the light reflector or brace or whatever you want to call this, and we're going to slide that over. And you can see here it's got 2 holes that will connect to the bottom pins right there. So just like that, and then we'll take this, slide that so it hits those holes right there. You can see those, and then just push down on the sticky tape right there, and that'll hold that in place. The next is going to be this piece, which is the bridge that's basically pushing against it. Now, this can be a little tricky as well to get in correctly. So let's see if I can show you here. You'll see that right here there's a little cutout which isn't on this side over here. And then you'll look at this and you'll see that there's a little pin there, a little connector. So the logical conclusion the first time you do this is you want to line that up so that that pin sits in that hole, and, you know, just like try to maneuver it in like so. And that's the incorrect way. In fact, it's going to be the other way around, because if you look right here at the bottom, there's a little cutout as well, and that is for this little pin to sit in. So the first thing you do is you take this cutout and you push it into this groove, and then just slide down on the left hand side, and that's going to pop into place. So, you know, if you just look at it the first time, you might, you know, think that it's going to be the other way around, but once you get it correct, it's going to be really easy, and you'll realize what the issue is right away. So next up, we're going to focus on this component here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to put the thumbsticks back on. So just want to make sure that those are dry, and then just slide those down on top of those little controller ports there. Let's see, I'll hold it like that. Next we want to do the bumpers, and you can see here how the bumpers has these little 2 pins here, and then of course these feet. And if I take this up here, you'll see that they have like these little feet right here, which will go onto those sides. So first thing you want to do is just orientate it. So it's going to be like that, which means that this is going to be the right hand side. So we will take those bumpers and just take those feet, slide it over like that, and then just push down, just like that. And you can see how that works really nice. And then we'll do the same for the left hand side. Just slide that over, push down. Oh, I missed one of them there. So just down like that, and there you go. And then we'll do the triggers. Now the triggers are a little bit more tricky because they will have these little springs here. So just to show you, let's do the left hand first, which is going to be on this side. So let's see if we can show this to you. Right there, there's a little groove, and that's where this would rest into. So what you do is you first align the button in the correct alignment. Then you take the spring and you take it over this little foot here, and you'll see one of them, one of the legs will go into the actual machine, not machine, but like the trigger itself, and then leaving this little foot here. So let's do that again. It can be a little tricky sometimes, this. So just like that, and then put it on this side, slide it in, and then hold on like gently right there, so you can see that that leg is now sticking out. And we'll bring this up and I'll see if I can show you. So I want to try and hit that little groove right there, and of course that didn't work. So let's try again. So I'm going to hit the groove and then just hold everything in place as I'm gently going up to those little connectors at the top there. Just like that, and then just squeeze it in. Like that. And I noticed that the little cushion there, the button, just slide out, so I'm gonna put that back so that it's over that little ledge there. There we go. So that's how it should be. So that little connector there is going to hold that in place. And now you got a working trigger button. So we'll do the same on the other one. There we go. So same thing here, we want to have that leg poking out. And then just slide that into the opening, a little slit there. Just like that. And then push it into its place here. There we go. And that's perfect. So now I got all the buttons working properly. And then we'll flip this over and make sure that we don't pinch any of the cords here. So like that. And there we go. So now we got the triggers and everything connected. Next thing we are going to do is just to align this with this piece right here. So we want to make sure that we get the ribbon cable to go through that hole, and of course align all the other pieces here. So let's see if we can manage to get that through here. Okay, so there we go. And just, there we go. Yay! And then of course get the thumbsticks through the bottom here. There we go. Next thing you want to do is to screw that in place, and that's going to be the silver screw. Now that we have all of that in place, we can finally rest easy a little bit, because everything now has been kind of held together. There's nothing's gonna fall out or drop out or lose its orientation. So of course we're going to connect the ribbon cable, so we have to open up this connector here and then slide that in like that. Make sure it is level. Flip over the connector, lock that in place, and then we'll do the battery cover. So yeah, let's do this again. Thankfully, we don't have to do a whole lot, but yeah, let's put these in. That works. Now, with these, they're same as the other buttons. There's only one way of putting it in. You'll see that it has actually a lot of water in that one. So let's take that out first. There you go. So you'll see that it has 3 pegs. It's got 2 on the top and then 1 on the side. And of course these have the corresponding cutouts. But if we try to put it in the wrong one, like this one right here, it's not going to go in. So it'll only go in on the actual side where it's supposed to be. So we'll put those in like that. And then we'll do this again. So make sure again we don't pinch any cables, that everything's sorted. And we'll put this in, and we'll start by putting the thumbsticks in here. And then just line everything up, make sure the ribbon cable comes through. And then slightly maneuver everything without pinching the ribbon cable here. Come on, there we go. And then, of course, screw that in place again. There we go. And connect the ribbon cable again. Like that. Then we can do the battery compartment. So we'll slide that in here, and you can see like right here and right there, there are 2 cutouts, and those goes for the 2 legs here. So just like that. And then we'll take the battery and put that in right there. Connect the cable here. Just like that. And of course, line the 2 pieces up. Connect the ribbon cable. And you want the metal to go towards the battery, and the blue like sticker, basically what that does is it keeps the ribbon cable stiff. So you want that piece to go towards the side. And then just slide that straight into this connector right here. Like so. Don't force it, you don't want to bend it, but you do want it to be secure. And then take the whole thing and just kind of flip the controller around. So just to show you here, you want these pieces to go in between the bumper and the trigger. So, and of course the battery is loose, so that never helps, but just like that, flip it over. And you can see here how these legs are crashing at the bottom. So you just bend those in. It's hard to show this while at the same time keeping the battery in the compartment there, so let's try this. So just like that, and just like slide that over. And then same thing here, you just want to give it a little bit of force just so that it comes over the side there. And then we'll push everything together here. And then you can see here how it slides over the triggers and then connects down here. And we'll then screw in the 4 screws. And I find it helps to kind of hold everything together as you're screwing these screws in, because otherwise you might not be able to actually get a good fit. So like that. And then the same over here. Just pinch it a little bit. There you go. Make sure all the buttons work. You can see here that definitely works. So final piece then is just to go over the whole thing with some orange pledge. And just make sure that it's looking nice, pretty, and is ready for use. And there you go. That's how you take a wireless PlayStation 4 controller apart and give it a good cleaning and put it all back together again. So again, I just want to say thank you so much for checking out my video. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, please give me a like, subscribe if you are so inclined. And it really helps me out if you use my affiliated links down below to buy any equipment that you need from Amazon. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.